be starting now. Welcome to the Infrastructure Oversight Board for the City of Burbank, April 22nd, 2021. Let's begin with the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're ready for roll call.
Okay, Armin Avazian,
Present.
Walter Brennan Jr.,
Present.
Maria Coronado,
Present.
Greg Jackson,
Present.
Vanessa Rochelle,
Present.
Tamala Takahashi,
Here.
and Jeff Vanderbart.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Great. Glad we're all here tonight. Do we have any announcements?
Madam Chair, I do.
Oh, good.
Mr. Berkman, nice to see you. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, board members, excuse me. Great to see you all. Just a couple things, as you know, or if you don't know, to make you aware, our first budget public hearing is the 27th, next Tuesday at City Council. And of particular interest for this group, the capital improvement program presentation as part of the budget hearings will be on May 4th at the City Council meeting. And Madam Chair will be giving some introductory comments to that. And I look forward to showing you some exciting stuff that we've done together on the 4th. That was first. The next thing for traffic considerations, I want to let the group know that we returned our traffic signals back to our pre-COVID normal operations. As you know, we pretty much, after I started here last April, 2020, we phased out to a pedestrian recall. So the walk signs were always on. And now with the Transportation Management Center watching things and weekly traffic volumes always being calibrated. And of course the video, they watch everything. We reached the point with also the orange tier reopening that we're pretty much almost back. So we've returned back to normal signal operations and it's going very well. That was as of the first week of April, around the 7th. So that was it from me, unless Hoon had anything. That's it for staff comments.
If I may, I also have a comment. So we have a message from some of our staff in the community development department that asked me along to pass along a message, essentially asking that the city is seeking the community's input regarding short-term rentals in Burbank. A short-term rental is a residential property that is rented for a brief duration, typically for 30 days or less. And an online 5-minute survey is available at www.burbank.gov/STR and will be open until May 21st of this year. So for more information, you may contact Nick Barant or Karen Pan at 818-238-5187. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. Mr. Vanderboort.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very briefly, and I only mention this now because our director mentioned that our traffic signals have come back to their previous normal operation. As you know, or may not know, I've mentioned it perhaps in the past. I live on the 300 block of Parish between Olive and Alameda. And in my walks, when the traffic signals were changed back to a more off and on situation where they didn't just respond to demand of traffic, it was easier to cross Alameda, cross Olive, cross Magnolia, Burbank, etc., on non-signalized streets. This morning, sadly, there was a fatality right at our corner on Parish and Alameda. A motorcycle driver, a young man, hit a car as it was trying to, the car was trying to enter Alameda in our street. The point I bring is, and I know that perhaps this is not our Infrastructure Oversight Board place to discuss this, but because the issue of how the city functions in terms of the traffic does matter to us in terms of how the streets are used, I wonder if there isn't an opportunity to rethink going back to the norm, because there is no opportunity for people who live on these cross streets to enter unless you go to a signalized intersection, which, by the way, is not the end of the world. In fact, I do it often, but clearly the same problem of not being able to cross the street because the traffic doesn't allow you brakes results in people not being able to enter the street. And there's more to this, perhaps. I'm sure I don't know anything about it other than I just happen to have become aware of it this morning. So if it's appropriate for the board, and this is a big if, I don't know if it is, I wonder if we should be discussing this, the normalization of traffic signals in a way that does not allow for cross traffic to work as well, but it does allow for smooth traffic movement on the major thoroughfares. That's really what has been our primary concern. Question is, should it continue to be? Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I don't know the answer to this, and Mr. Bergman perhaps has an opinion, or if not, maybe it can be put into an agenda for further discussion, at least an opening discussion.
So two things, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board Member Vanderboort. One, announcements are typically just for folks to let the community know what activities you are doing related to your roles and responsibilities as board members. And that's the announcements. I can't have a conversation. And two, as you know, one of our pending agenda items is to take a look at your responsibilities, and that includes the traffic responsibilities. So we will be bringing that back at some point. We've obviously been very busy with you doing your primary responsibility, actually producing a significant capital program and getting us moving forward there. Traffic is mentioned in your bylaws, so we do recognize that and do know you want to address that, and we will bring that back in the future. And Ms. Kurihara, if you had anything to add to that, open the opportunity, but if not, that's what I'd like to add to the conversation.
Yes, I mean, I will say that, within IOB's purview, our recommendations regarding traffic, and again, we're still trying to define that role for you. But if this is an item that you would like to have brought back on a future agenda, we can discuss how that may be done.
Thank you. By the way, we will have the introduction of additional agenda items. I only mentioned it now because Mr. Bergman commented on the back to business as usual with our signaling, and the impact of that decision is what brought me to think about it. But I'd be glad to bring it up for additional agenda. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other announcements? Mr. Avazian has a comment.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to announce that May 16 to 22 is National Public Works Week. I want to congratulate this to Mr. Bergman and their employees, Public Works staff, doing their hard work for this last year during this pandemic, and being an essential worker is not easy, and just want to recognize your hard work.
Thank you, sir.
As always, we appreciate the staff and their hard work. Any further announcements? All right, moving on to public comment. Do we have anyone on hold?
We do not at this time.
Okay, thank you. On to the consent calendar and the approval of the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Let's call for a vote.
All right. Amrin Avazian,
Yes.
Walter Brennan Jr.,
Yes.
Maria Coronado,
Yes.
Greg Jackson,
Yes.
Vanessa Rochelle,
Yes.
Tamala Takahashi,
Yes.
and Jeff Vanderboort.
Abstain. I was not present at the last meeting, and again, I apologize for my absence.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to reports to the board. We have an updated proposed capital improvement CIP program for the fiscal year 2021 and 22.
Yes. Madam Chair, while Mr. Hahn pulls up the quarterly update for you, we're happy to present this third quarter update. And it's been a good year in spite of our COVID reduced activities. We've gotten a lot of stuff done and here to present that to you. So, Mr. Hahn, I think
Thank
you
you,
have,
Mr. Berkman.
you want to put the actual slideshow on, don't you?
Is it, oh, sorry.
Your notes, not your notes, but advanced.
With my computer.
You can see it.
But I had the right one on. Okay, let me go back. Oh, there it is. Okay, is that better? Thank you, Mr. Berkman. Good evening, Chair Coronado and members of the board. My name is Hoon Han, the Capital Projects Program Manager. Tonight I have before you the third quarter capital improvement program update. And as you're aware, the quarterly update is required per the City Municipal Code 2-1-426 that established the Infrastructure Oversight Board. This slide, this shows the approved capital project per fiscal year 2021. As you can see, the status of the project is on the far right, and the budget that's actually the IOB have concurred with, and also the council have actually approved. So the projects are actively being worked on at this time. This is a list of projects of all the active projects. Staff is working hard to reduce the number of these active projects. We're going to try to close out as many as possible. So staff has been working diligently to work on those. The third quarter projects that were completed in the fiscal year 2021, it's the Empire Avenue Landscape Improvement Project, which has this project was part of the mitigation project for the I-5 improvement that Caltrans is working on. So the project is actually funded it's a grant funded through Caltrans. So the city is not spending money on it, or at least not city funds. The next project is the Burbank Channel Bikeway project, which was completed in February of 21. And that project also is a grant funded project. And then we have the Midtown Commercial Corridor Traffic Project, which was completed in March of 21 on the third quarter. And that's also a grant funded project. And then we have the Parks Project. It's a bleacher rehabilitation and retrofitting project. And this is a Fund 534 Measure B project that the parks have completed. And then we have the Burbank Central Library design. This is the project that actually was presented to council in February. And this is what we call the first phase of the central library project. And the IOB had actually concurred with funding the next phase of the project for the fiscal year 21-22 to do look into the P3 possibly for project delivery method. Projects under construction is the paving program that we have currently. This is the phase 10 projects. And as you can see, this is partially funded by Measure P funding. And we have a project sign that's up so that the community could see how the Measure P fund is being spent. We have the paving operation that's going on, the grinding and paving. And also we're including parking lot paving as part of the program to upgrade and improve our parking lots. And as you can see, Maxim Park was actually repaved as part of this program. And also as the paving program, when there is a curb ramp that's not per standard, then we need to actually reconstruct it to build it up to current standard. And that's the curb ramp that you see the improvement that's going on the right side there on the third picture. The part of the same paving program, you have the 2020 arterial street improvement. So the paving operation is divided into two. We have the arterial program and also the residential program. As you can see, the ramp improvement that's being performed as part of the arterial street improvement, and also improving or reconstructing some of the drive approaches that have been damaged or is damaged and needs replacement. So that's the work that you see there. And you can see some additional cross-gutter concrete work that's being performed, and also the curb ramp improvement that is occurring there. And we have some pictures of the completed project that I've actually shared with you earlier. We have the Empire Avenue landscape project. It's, as you can see, the city installed new drought-resistant landscaping where it would basically reduce the amount of water that's going to be required to make the landscape beautiful. And then the Midtown Commercial Corridor traffic project that actually, as you can see, the before and after of installing signal heads, and so that it actually makes it safer for pedestrians to cross streets, and also for vehicle traffic too, for better control. And this is also another picture showing the new signal that has been installed. The next also is the few pictures of the facility maintenance upgrades that's been done as part of our programmatic. And you can see the Central Library electric panel upgrade. You have the metro station lighting control replacement, and also Foy Park, the infrastructure modernization. And next, we also have the Recycle Center electric outlet. You could see the before and after, and also the Recycle Center upgrade of the low voltage in that facility there. And that concludes my presentation, and I am available for any questions.
Mr. Vandenberg, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Han, thank you very much for the presentation, and more importantly, thank you for the pictures. They're worth 1,000 words. It's very clear to see what is being done, and is being done in many parts of the city, which I think is very favorable for all of us, because not everyone travels from one spot or visits one site. So this is happening all across the city. In the second quarter report that you gave us, and I know that we're navigating our way through how to make these reports as good as possible. You also included some spreadsheets on the completed projects, also projects under bid, etc. Is it possible to do both, to have the pictures and the spreadsheets? Because then you also see the budget and a couple of other bits of information as to the projects that have been completed, for example, or what's under bid. In this case, nothing was shown for under bid. Perhaps we don't have anything under bid for this quarter. Am I making myself clear as to what I hope happens for the fourth quarter report?
Yes, so it's probably the fourth quarter. Definitely, we're going to summarize the entire year. So I actually would anticipate probably a little bit more information to capture, probably kind of capturing what's been done in the reports for the first and the second, and just kind of summarizing the entire year. Definitely. I don't believe we actually had any projects that were out to bid. So basically, like you said, we are in the process of trying to feel out, what's the best way to present the information to the board so that you are knowledgeable on what's going on and the decisions that you could make for the city.
And if I may, yes, Madam Chair, through the chair, Board Member Vandervoort, I'd add to Hoon's answer, we definitely want to always provide updates on the projects that are within the fiscal year for planning and design and construction. So it's a point well taken. We didn't have anything out to bid in the January to March. I think we just awarded the pavement which would be the first quarter of the fiscal year. So there wasn't anything, but definitely we will make sure to have planning and design and construction updates for all our projects. And Hoon and I have talked about the best way to present this. Maybe we have, with the slides on individual projects, we show the budget and the schedule as well. So folks know what phase we're in, what's going on, and maybe the phase costs like design, or if it's construction, the construction costs. And we can kind of have a snapshot, because it's hard to translate that spreadsheet of here's the budget from the first slide and then go through all the projects, but not have that info translated. So we'll do better with that.
Thank you very much. I don't know that I mean, you're doing great. So that isn't the issue. It's just more, I refer back to the first quarter, second quarter. This is our third report, and we've been in business now for we're going on to our third year. So we're almost, and so we definitely want to get as much information that we can understand. So for me, if we use the same format over and over, then it's easy to revert back and see, that project was in the planning, has moved to design, or was in the design and has moved to construction, or it just disappeared, in which case I wonder, where did the project go? That kind of thing. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Takahashi has a question, and then Mr. Arvazian after that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Mr. Hahn, for your presentation tonight. And I agree with Mr. Vandervoort that the pictures really do help understand the projects better. I have just one question tonight, particularly about the project on Magnolia and Lima of the signalized intersection. Before I ask my question, though, I just want to say that I very much appreciate this project. I live very close to this neighborhood. And I have to say, since it's been installed, I've probably used it maybe like a half a dozen times so far. And I see it being used in the community a lot. It's so much safer now to cross that street. People don't try to cross in between without a light. And it's a very well-placed light, and I appreciate it very much. So thank you for putting that in. So on that project, I don't remember it being on the list before. Am I remembering incorrectly? This is the first time I've seen it on the list of projects, or was it listed? I just missed it.
It is listed.
Okay.
So the Midtown project, actually, there were two projects that they combined into one contract. So it's an older project. So I think our goal has been to try to close out all these older projects as much as possible. So it is on the list that's from the previous presentations.
Okay, so was it previously funded and it was just waiting to be
correct? So yes, it's a grant funded project that's been around for a little bit, and so it's finally been completed.
Okay, great.
I believe the two projects did 32 intersections improvements, I believe.
Okay, and these were included in those 32
right.
intersections.
We just Hoon was highlighting a couple of significant examples for you.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so are there any other intersections on Magnolia that are in the plan as well? Because there's other dangerous intersections on Magnolia too that could use a light. So I was wondering if those are also in the plan.
For future planning?
to put in a light at the intersection?
No. These are two major corridor projects that were developed and planned and designed to specifically address issues. And while we always continually take a look and work with PD from the engineers and all the real-time data, as this body may know, there are certain warrants, certain state regulations that need to be made and met, studied and met for anything from stop signs to signals. So we're always, usually those are submitted by the public individually, and that's when they get into the queue for a traffic engineering study. And,
Got it.
If they are warranted, then they get into, well, this body would see them as a new project and prioritize them for construction into the capital program. So that's basically the overview of the process to get signals installed.
Okay, great. And then one more bit about this intersection. I noticed this intersection, and I believe also the one on Hollywood and the other ones have the new zebra striping crosswalks, the updated zebra striping crosswalks. Do all of the crosswalks on Magnolia have zebra striping, or is there a plan for the whole city to become zebra striped, or is that just with the new intersections that are done? Because I find the zebra striping to be much more safe and easier to see as a driver that there's a crosswalk there. So I'm wondering if the zebra striping will be something that will be done for the whole city, or only when there's an improvement being done?
I'll answer it this way. It's not to be implemented citywide, but it is to be implemented citywide on a qualified basis where there is additional need for pedestrian enhancement for safety. So when we go around I believe our paving project has done many new ones. Once we work on the area, or we plan to work on the area with pavement, we take a look at the situation and we install the zebra. People have probably heard piano or ladder, but those types of crosswalks where they make sense from a safety perspective.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. That's all my questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Abazian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Hahn, for the presentation. I want to piggyback on Mr. Vanderbort's recommendation. Is there a way that we can also be informed about the contracts, given it's a design contract or construction contract, the status of the progress, and if they are within the budget or the timeline of the contract as well, as part of this report?
That's exactly what I believe Board Member Vanderbort was asking too, and I think we will. The answer is yes, and we will do that. I think I love the pictures. That's always just a great way to present what we're working on, and I can picture adding the data of the budget and the schedule for the phase that it's in. Ultimately, whether it's on schedule and on budget would be inferred and discussed within that slide. And ultimately, in the end, when we complete the project, we can compare the budget, which you would see from the budget that this board approves to go to council, compared to the contract costs and the ultimate, with change orders and final costs. So we can provide that. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions? Well, staff recommends that we receive and review the updated capital improvement project program and recommend it to be presented to the city council. Any objection to that?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes.
This is just I missed the agenda or reading it. It's not for the board to recommend approval to council. It's a receive and file and comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
It says receive and review. So.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So we're moving on then to introduction of additional agenda items. I believe we had one that we talked about earlier. Mr. Jackson, go ahead.
Let me unmute myself. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two issues I'd like to discuss and for possible further consideration. Let me begin. You know, this past year has been very challenging for all of us personally, and I'm sure for the city and city staff. And I think they're by and large doing a really good job. I mean, Ken, I think you're our fourth public works director in 3 years. So I think you're giving some stability to the job. I hope you'll be here for at least a few more years.
Sure.
That said, I was very troubled last month when we were reviewing the proposed CIP budget. And I asked Mr. Hahn, where were the other projects that fell below the line? There were 15 that were being recommended, and there were, we weren't presented others. And he told us there were no other cases, no other proposals, no other projects that didn't meet the criteria for funding. I surmise if I asked the same question back in February, I would have been told the same answer. But like Houdini, 3 more projects appeared a month later for new funding, and there were 3 additional for continued funding. So I'm really troubled by this. When Measure P was approved by the voters, we were told there was like $200 million worth of unfunded infrastructure improvements. What happened? Were we deceived? I hope not. But it provides questions. I mean, the residents of Burbank are paying the highest sales tax in the state of California, and by that, also in the nation. So, I mean, I think, I guess there's these unfunded projects that are sort of nebulously out there that you were reviewing. I really think we need to have that brought forward quickly to the IOB to go over them and see what merits funding and what doesn't for next year. Do you have a comment, Mr. Brackman?
What's the agenda request, sir?
Okay, that this be brought forward, that the unfunded projects be brought forward to us at the next meeting or the meeting after that, not 6 months from now, but that we go through that and find out if indeed there are those $200 million worth of projects that need to be done or not.
So you want an overview of all the infrastructure needs?
Yes.
Okay, that's no problem.
That's my first. Second, earlier this week, I watched the Transportation Commission to find out what was going on with the I-5 project. And I found out that there was like $15 million of unfunded improvements that were in dispute between the city and between Caltrans. I don't know why you wanted to keep us in the dark, Ken, because some of those $15 million may come out of Prop P funding. And I think that's something the IOB needs to know. So, I mean, I really do think we need to have some communication. But that's here to there. I listened to the Transportation Committee, or is it Commission? I'm sorry, and I was struck by how thorough they were and how thoughtful. And one of the things that they did before they got to the Caltrans issue was they were discussing another recent fatality in the city of Burbank, and they seem to be frustrated that after 2 years between the creation of the IOB and the other, their body, that certain basic traffic safety issues were not delegated. Rumble strips or what speed humps, traffic stop signs, things that would have gone to a previous board that are now still going only to staff. And I have difficulties with that, a lot of difficulties. At my street, 15 years ago, we petitioned to get a 4-way stop sign. And the traffic engineer at that time, 2 or 3 engineers before, said no. But after the 12th accident at that intersection, we elevated it to the Citizens Commission. and we got our stop sign approved. So, I mean, I don't understand why after 2 years that we've been in existence that you can't decide who is responsible for that. The commission commented they felt there was a need to have a joint committee meeting between them and the IOB. And I strongly endorse that. And I think that's something that we need to bring forward also very quickly within a month or two, not 6 or 8 months off in the future. So those are the two issues that I think we need to put on the agenda for future items, and sooner than later. Thank you.
Through the chair, what's the second one, sir?
The second is a joint meeting between the Transportation Commission and the IOB. They requested it on Monday or Tuesday, whenever they last met, and I would like to second that.
Okay, I will discuss that with the Assistant Community Development Director, because that Transportation Commission is under his purview, and we'll coordinate that and get that on both future agendas in some way. And we can't discuss this, but I will just address your comment about the I-5, which is under the Transportation Commission's purview. And as hopefully everybody received my email with information to follow up on that, it's not within the IOB's purview. You're local and Measure P, and there is no Measure P being implemented into a Caltrans state project. So I can have the board rest assured that this board's responsibility and financial obligations of oversight for the city and its residents and its businesses is in its proper place, and the Transportation Commission's is in its proper place too. And Caltrans is a difficult place to work with.
You can guarantee that those $50 million worth of unmet funded improvements to repair streets in Burbank that were caused by the I-5 widening will not fall into the, Prop P funding?
Yes, it's a state-funded project.
Yes, but the state and the city are not in agreement with what obligations the state has to the local jurisdictions. That was what was Mr. Kursky explained to the Transportation Commission on Monday.
That's true.
That's true.
Oh.
And so where is that $15 million going to come? I know we're getting into discussions, and I know you don't want to have this for the Brown Act, but I think you're, not giving us the full picture. And I resent that. I might as well stay home and not participate in these meetings if we're not going to be given a full picture of the obligations for infrastructure improvements in the city.
Well, I think item number 2 that's coming up, the IOB's scope of responsibilities will help us there.
Okay.
I appreciate your opinion, sir.
Ms. Takahashi has a recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to just second the request for the topic of unfunded projects to be brought to the board. I went over the list of unfunded projects that was presented to us. I think one of the very first meetings that we had as an IOB, we were given about 5 or 6 pages worth of unfunded projects that were listed. And I went through them, and there were a number on there that I would love to ask questions about. So even if there's nothing presented per se, I would just love to have an agenda item just so that I can ask questions specifically about those unfunded projects. I can update. Also, I had a question. I don't know if this is something that we want to put on a future agenda item or just keep in the back of our mind, but what I understand is that the city will be, I asked the financial department, and they said they will be getting $26 million to the city from federal grants for COVID relief. And I asked her if there's any earmarked funding for that. And she said that this is Jennifer, I forget her last name, the new financial director, said that it's going to be up to the council to decide how that funding is going to work to be distributed through the city. And I'm just wondering if the IOB will be involved in that decision-making at all about whether any of that $26 million will be funded for some of our infrastructure as part of our recovery. And if we can get that.
Through the chair directly, no. That's the council decision. And of course, individually as residents here, you can come to the council meeting and express your views on what to do with the funds.
Okay, so the infrastructure would only be involved if, say, for example, the council decided certain percentage would be for infrastructure, and then we would decide how that would be used? Okay.
Yes.
Is it possible that we as a board or the Public Works or a department would want to have a infrastructure project funded, and then that would need to be approved by council? If so, would that go through us first? Or would that go directly to council for approval? I'm just curious. Yeah, so if there was an infrastructure project that somebody, one of the departments felt wanted to be funded by this, 26 million, either we did or one of the departments did, would that go directly to council, or would that come to us first if it comes up?
Well, we've already created what we want to propose to council now, so it wouldn't go in this year.
Okay.
If we decide here's some more infrastructure funding at the public hearing, then that's a possibility that it would come before you.
Okay.
To consider as part of the list that we will create for 22-23.
Okay, great. And then the last thing a question I have is I've been recently attending the meetings about the bus rapid transit that's going to be coming into the city. And the council meeting and then at the last community meeting they explained that they're expecting to be doing some rather significant changes to the sidewalks and streets in order to bring the BRT in. Would that be underneath our purview too, to see how that funding is working in coordination with Metro, or how would we be involved in that at all, or what do you know about that?
It's a draft EIR for a Metro project, and staff prepared a very, very thorough letter that council approved and submitted a month ago that council approved. So at this time, it's not within the IOB's purview.
Okay. Would there be any value that when the project gets moving along a little farther forward, that we have Metro presented to us, or somebody presented to us, or like we did with the bridge, to have maybe a link to a presentation sent to the board so that we can keep up to date of that project? What do you think?
When it's far off in the future because we're just in the draft EIR, but if they started actual plans and as an advisory board to the council, there were significant impacts. In this case, it would be Olive. We can bring that to your attention either with a presentation from us or CDD, who is the liaison right now for that project since it's in the planning stage. But definitely we could bring the IOB into that fold for opinion and recommendations for council.
Okay, great. Then I'll save that for the future then.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to reiterate my hope that my fellow board members would support the idea of providing some level of feedback from staff with respect to the impact that the current signalization system that we've come back to after a year of a different one has on these less important intersections. You know, Ms. Takahashi mentioned, for example, the other difficult intersections of Magnolia. I'm elated, for example, that we've had the improvement also in Burbank and the new light that was shown on the recently completed projects, Wyoming, or whatever those three streets, because I've used that intersection many times. I have to wait about 3 minutes to push the button to get a chance at crossing. My point is that I didn't want it to become a future agenda item, but rather that if it is coming with the study of the traffic responsibilities of the board, if the board would support me, could we ask Mr. Bergman to also at least through the CDD department or to someone to at least give us a brief response that says, yes, that's something we're studying, or no, we're not studying it because moving the traffic in the fast thoroughfares is more important than allowing for cross traffic. You know, what, in a nutshell, what has happened in the year before is when the signals went to a automatic on and off, in other words, red and green, it allowed for spacing to allow for people to cross the street, pedestrians, or cross traffic to cross without having to take a chance as traffic moves, regardless of its signalization ahead or behind you, to the right or to the left. Now, when traffic has come back to normal, traffic is moving in such a way that it's very difficult for a pedestrian to cross unless you're at a signalized intersection, or someone to enter that intersection to cross it or turn left or even turn right. So that's why I want to make sure that this issue, because I feel clearly today's tragic accident is another reason why I'm a little bit on my soapbox, but I didn't want it to be forgotten if indeed Mr. Bergman deems that this is something he can add to this, the discussion of traffic responsibilities sooner rather than later. And I recognize you have your plate full, but if you can at least try to bring this to the surface for discussion, so Ms. Kurohara doesn't feel that this is inappropriate to discuss at the next time that we discuss traffic and say, well, we're not ready to discuss that. That's not on the agenda.
If I may, through the chair, Member Vandervoort, what would the agenda title be?
Okay. Consequences of current signalization timing on cross traffic for pedestrians and vehicular traffic at small peripheral streets. I'm calling peripheral. I'm not sure I'm using the right term. Does that help a little bit?
So,
I live on Parish, Lamer, Orchard.
Intersections.
Exactly. They're currently unprotected intersections, and clearly the signalization that we had the benefit of enjoying through COVID taught me that, boy, pedestrians can really be better served by the signalization, even when traffic started to increase until, of course, we've gone back to what is now a system that favors regular traffic. I'm sorry if I'm not very clear, then perhaps I should write something and send it to you. I don't know. I don't want to confuse you or add work unnecessarily.
That would be better, sir. I think again, the conversation, it would be better if we just had an email. I'll try and bring it back to the board to say, yes, that's what we want to do.
Will do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick
Thank you, Madam Chair.
clarification question for Mr. Vandervoort.
Yes.
For clarification, are you talking about the signal synchronization that happened when all the signals were, they were automatically switching without being asked to switch, that the signals synchronized so that way it created a natural gap in traffic versus when they're requested to switch and then the signals are not synchronized and so they switch at different intervals? Is that what you're talking about?
And I think it's just the opposite. Okay. Now they're synchronized to move traffic, but during the COVID time, they automatically cycled from red to green, even though there were no pedestrians or there was no cross traffic. And as a result, it created gaps that allowed pedestrians to cross 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 streets away and or traffic to make it out. And maybe, this is one of those impossible dreams because traffic has so many components, but that was my thinking as to what I was asking. And again, if indeed it is within our purview of responsibility, then I wanted to make sure it bubbles to the surface sooner, because today someone tragically lost their life as a result of that reality of traffic, which is nothing to do with anything that we hadn't already been doing for years. It's just simply that it, until you see it and stares you in the face, you don't realize that maybe there's another option that might work. Thank you. I'll try to send an email to Mr. Bergman and copy the chair to avoid any Brown Act violations and vice chair, and then see where it takes us. This can bubble to the surface sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Sounds like a great recommendation. Do we have any further pending or any further agenda items we'd like to see in meetings? One more?
One very quick one. Mr. Han was nice enough to update us on the gas company work on Verdugo and Reese. And in that, I watched the meeting last month, and the expectation is that it would be completed at the end of this month, more or less. I imagine nothing is ever perfect with timing. But if this is still going on by next meeting, could you give us a little, again, briefing as to where we are from staff's perspective? If it still is ongoing, a month from now.
Okay, we'll do.
Thank you.
I'll follow up with the gas company.
Thank you so much.
All right. Any further questions for future agenda items? All right. Hearing none. The next scheduled meeting, when is the next scheduled meeting? Looks like I have the wrong date on this.
May 27th.
May 27th. So we'll see everyone back here May 27th. Hopefully we can all get together in person sometime soon.
Here, here. Yes.
Thank you, staff, for all the good reports, and I appreciate the conversation back and forth. A lot of good information. I look forward to future meetings. Thank you, everyone.
Budget hearing. Thanks.
See you then.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Right.